Welcome to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan.
I'm James.
And I'm Callum.
And tonight we're talking The Mandalorian and everything Disney+.
Yeah, first, I just want a quick update on last week where we talked about Death Stranding. Since then, I finished the game and I really liked it. A lot of people complaining about it online. I was a bit disappointed last week. We didn't really talk about the game a lot. We just kind of rambled. But yeah, I really liked it. And I like I really want to talk about the story and the characters and all the weird philosophy and like just the, if anything, it's like one of my favorite movies of the year. Just I find the ideas in it really interesting and the cutscenes and the kind of quote unquote filmmaking of it. That I really want to talk about it. So I think even though we talked about last week how once everyone's finished it, we might do another episode. I think once Callum's finished it, me and him will just do like a mini-sode and really get down and discuss.
Well, I've been delivering my packages.
Yeah. And also Half-Life Alyx, which we mentioned last week. The trailer, since last week, the trailer's come out. It looks pretty cool, but
No.
VR.
Yeah, it's...
You know what? Release a VR version? Sure.
Yeah.
Maybe also give us a standard game as well. And that will make everyone happy.
It definitely feels like they're like testing the waters for their technology and trying to get people more sales of their new technology.
I think we've talked about this off air, and my stance is, unless you're going to override my optical nerve, I don't care.
We talked about it last week. Yeah. But, I mean, it looks interesting. We'll see. It comes out in March 2020, which is a lot sooner than...
Yeah, that's ballsy, because that's also Cyberpunk territory and Final Fantasy VII Remake territory.
Last of Us 2 as well.
That's ballsy.
Look, realistically, as I said last week regarding this game, only 0.33% of the Steam user base has the hardware they're trying to push with this game. I don't think they don't really care if it's a big hit.
No.
Like Valve has so much money at this point just from being a vendor that they probably couldn't care less.
Yeah, I think it's a guaranteed hit because of Half-Life.
It is.
That's why they're doing it, so they can get sales of their...
At the same time, if you have one of the headsets, you get it for free.
Yeah,
really?
I think Gabe doesn't care if it's granted, I say this knowing they're a commercial behemoth. I'm pretty sure this game is being made for the art and not for the money. I said because, like I said, they're not going to make. They're not going to earn.
Yeah, I didn't want this conversation to go for so long, but now I disagree because last week I was saying it feels like a very cynical decision of like how do we get people to buy our new VR technology?
It works with all the most popular sort of technologies, but if you own Valve's, you get it for free.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, so I guess should we talk about Disney Plus first and just the service in general and like...
So have you subscribed yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've also subscribed.
I'm still, like, when you subscribe, you get the 7-day free trial, which I'm still on.
I'm pretty sure I'm past the 7-day free trial, but it's only $9. I probably didn't notice it.
But when you subscribe for the 7-day trial, you have to put your card details, which is normal. Yeah. So technically I'm subscribed. I paid for the whole year. Just it's cheaper and you get out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty nice. You know, it looks
the actual
nice.
has a nice slick look. Yeah. Yeah, the actual user interface is really nice. That's like my favorite thing about the whole service at this point is just the user interface. It's really nice and clean. Yeah,
I do like some things. It's kind of like a good mixture of Netflix and Amazon. Like it's got some strengths of both. And it's got a lot of weaknesses. A lot of, there's teething problems because it's so new. People's accounts have already been hacked, but that's when Netflix was new, they got hacked like 1 million times. So that's not really their fault. I don't think there's any like continue watching section.
No, there's not.
Like if you stop something halfway through and then start later, it'll still save your progress. But I don't think there's any...
There's no list or continue watching, That's a little strange.
I'm sure they'll add it.
It'll come,
Yeah, it's been out for it's been out for like, a week. So
yeah.
I think if you're a parent to a young child, this is an amazing service.
Oh, definitely.
It's got all the Disney stuff, Pixar stuff.
Man, you don't have to worry too much either about what your kids are watching. I mean, there's some stuff that's a little edgier than others. Yeah, but
like Netflix, you can choose a kid's account. I guess it gets rid of some of the...
Gets rid of 2 programs.
Yeah, gets rid of... but
I mean, what's the edgiest thing on the service?
It's Mandalorian, probably.
It's maybe some of the animal shows that might show violence in the animal kingdom.
Oh, that's
maybe
like
National Geographic sort of stuff.
Maybe The Simpsons.
Nah.
Nah. But yeah, I just went through the whole thing and because there's a lot of content, but there's still enough that you can go through it all.
Yeah.
Kind of quickly. So I just went through the whole list of content last night and just put all the stuff that I wanted in my watch list. And it's really cool because I got like the old Gargoyles cartoon.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I was just like, yes.
I think that's probably its biggest strength at the moment for people like us is the cartoons.
Oh man,
like the 2D old school cartoons.
They've got like the old Fantastic Four and Iron Man animated.
And Silver Surfer.
I don't think they have X-Men yet, but they better put it.
No, they do have X-Men.
Do they?
Yeah.
They also have Spider-Man.
I know they have Spider-Man.
They do have X-Men.
All right, I'm going to double check when I go home tonight because it wasn't there when I checked.
We saw it when I was going through it.
Okay.
Yeah, they have the X-Men.
Okay, good.
Or the classic 90s X-Men.
Yeah.
They have the Silver Surfer.
Yeah, that one I got.
Well, they have all that stuff.
Spider-Man, yeah.
And obviously they have the Simpsons, which I wouldn't suggest watching yet.
That's the other thing is because there was that controversy where they cropped it from original 4:3 to 16:9, so it fits modern televisions, but they ended up just cutting off the top and bottom, and so you lose a lot of visual information, you lose a lot of jokes, and people have been rightly complaining about it. Luckily though, Disney has said they're going to fix it.
I reckon early 2020.
Yeah.
All the seasons will be, you can watch them in their original aspect ratio.
I guess it's dumb that they shouldn't have done it in the first place, but it's good that they said they're going to fix it.
Or they should have released it with both, like you can choose.
No, they should just release it in 4:3. People have to get over this fear of a couple of black bars on the side of the screen.
But also, a lot of modern TVs have the capability for you to change the aspect ratio anyway. So they can always be like...
Stretch it,
yeah. So if people are really anal about wanting 16:9, they want the whole TV filled, you can do that at a hardware level.
That's true.
Yeah.
Do they have Futurama?
No.
I wonder what's up with that.
I think just
that's on Netflix though.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of stuff that's licensed to other places, and
I think as the years go on and license agreements end, Disney will
especially with all the Fox stuff.
Like there's no Deathstalker on Disney Plus yet, so hopefully once those licensing issues have been resolved.
Could you imagine Deathstalker like the kids' adventures?
Oh god, no! Disney should stay away. I want the Amazon reboot series that we talked about. But yeah, like I think as the years go by, especially with the Fox properties, we'll see more and more stuff.
Yeah. I think as the years go by, this will get stronger and stronger. For me personally, like I'm getting my money's worth at the moment while I'm watching The Mandalorian and some other stuff.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't recommend it to people who don't have young kids just yet. When The Simpsons gets fixed, then it's a hard yes.
Look, I'd say it's worth the money, considering it's cheaper than Netflix. Like, it's worth the money just now with the content now.
Yeah.
If you want to watch the old, like, Disney cartoons, the old superhero cartoons, it's got all the Marvel movies, MCU movies, got all the Star Wars movies.
Doesn't it have The Last Jedi?
Not yet because of rights.
Although it has them all in 4K.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but they're not. They're not the
same.
They're the special editions. So
that's another pro I will give Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Unlike Netflix, you don't have to pay extra to get the 4K HDR content.
Yeah. I have a feeling eventually, like, the price is just going to go up and up and up, and then they might add tiers later on. But at the moment, it's pretty cool. It's just like Amazon. It's just like you pay for it and you get it, and there's no...
Amazon's still the cheapest.
Yeah.
$59 a year.
There's still some problems with, like, censorship, and, like, they've been cutting a few things out, but it's not too bad. Like, they've not been, like, completely destroying everything.
There's been no wholesale editing.
Yeah, but it's still, but we knew Disney, that's what they do, so there is that problem. I think in Europe and the UK, they don't even get The Mandalorian until like March or May 2020, which is insane.
Ooh, that's really weird.
So like,
and they wonder why people pirate.
Exactly, and even with this new affordable streaming service with all this content, there's still enough problems and still enough rights issues and still enough censorship and still enough teething issues and still enough stupid executive corporate decisions that just justify piracy and alternate...
Especially these
seeking
days,
alternate ways to watch it.
Especially these days, when
physical media as well. Like, this whole Simpsons debacle. I'm like, well, I got them on DVD. They're in 4:3. I'm not going to be losing any information there.
That's right.
And especially these days, when most people have the NBN, it's not hard to just download what you want.
Yeah, that's right.
Or affordable, fast
we talked about this on the piracy episode, where streaming has to be easier than piracy for it to
I
work.
mean, I don't want to repeat ourselves, but we live in an era where I will pay, for example, The Lighthouse.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse is a movie I deeply want to see, but yes, I could technically go and see it at the one time it's playing at the one cinema or whatever.
Well, as far as I know, it's not coming out here until January, if at all.
Yeah, so my point is, we live in an era where I have money, I can pay online, I want to watch this film. I will give someone $20 to watch this film. But at the moment, they will not allow me to.
No.
I am not allowed to pay for a film that I want to see.
Technically, we can. If you pay it's something crazy like 50 grand, but you can buy a box and then you have to spend like $500 to get a movie downloaded to it.
Nah,
I thought playing in theaters.
One, is that available in Australia?
Yeah.
Two, is that
not.
all movies,
No,
or is that specific
that's
blockbuster?
that's a rich American thing.
Yeah.
So probably not available here.
Exactly.
Yeah. But my point is, it's like...
Yeah, we want to pay. We talked about in the piracy. We want to pay for stuff if you make it easy, accessible, affordable.
And that goes for The Mandalorian. Luckily, we get access to it.
Yeah.
But like, if you lived in Europe and you're willing to pay good euros or whatever, you're not allowed. Sorry, man.
It's
but this is
insane.
not the first time that Disney has been withholding.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, the more we enjoy Disney Plus when it starts getting the Fox content, we're shooting ourselves in the feet almost. Because then Disney are less likely to replay some of these movies in theaters or...
Well, they've already made that decision, so I don't think not watching them on the service is going to convince them to start releasing them
that's right.
in cinemas again, So, they've already done that, and it's not going to change their mind. You guys want to mention anything else? Should we move on to actually talking about the Mandalorian?
No. Yeah, moving on.
Yeah. Well, first, speaking of teething problems with the Disney Plus service, when I started watching The Mandalorian, the first few lines of dialogue are in the Huttese language.
There's no subtitles?
No, and there is subtitles. No. But then the next few lines of dialogue are in English. But my service watching The Mandalorian automatically put the dialogue in German. And so it goes from Huttese, the alien language, to German. And I'm
you didn't know it was alien language?
Yeah, no, and I was like, are they speaking? I'm like, that sounds like German. Why? That's not Huttese. That's not an alien language. I'm like, hang on a second. So I had to reboot it and start again. And it kept going. It kept defaulting. And I kept having to change it manually.
Did you have a VPN on set to Germany?
No.
Okay.
So it was really annoying. But it after 5 minutes, I was just really angry. And then it fixed itself. And I was like, okay, good. So luckily that wasn't a big problem. Because otherwise I was like, I'm going to have to... I just paid for this service. I'm going to have to go and download it just so I can watch it in English. Oh, God. Also, did you guys hear about... speaking of Disney Plus's censorship and changing things, they changed Star Wars again?
Yes,
what happened?
Yes.
They
changed the shootout with
so there's this thing people are calling Maclunkey, which... So in the original 1977 Star Wars...
Han shoots first.
Greedo is pointing his blaster at Han, and Han shoots him before Greedo can shoot at all and kills him. Then in the special edition, the genius that is George Lucas decided that, I guess that was too harsh for children. I don't know what his rationale was.
I think it was that he doesn't want people to see Han as a villain.
Even though Greedo made it expressly clear that he was going to kill him.
If you point a gun at anyone anywhere and they also have a gun, they're going to shoot you.
Also, it's a Western and Han Solo is a roguish kind of,
Anyway, so they changed it.
So they changed it. So George Lucas weirdly, oddly, digitally edited it. So
they shoot at the same time.
Greedo shoots just
a second,
just a second before Han, but because they're point blank, Greedo has to completely miss to where the laser bolt goes near Han's head, and then they awkwardly digitally moved Harrison Ford's head so it looks like he's dodging.
Oh, no.
What's that Photoshop tool where you just kind of walk like a puppet? Is it called puppet?
I'm not sure.
Where you just kind of rotate something,
probably.
Yeah, and then Han shoots and kills Greedo. It's the most weird, awkward, and that's where the whole Han shoots first controversy came from, and people were so mad about that change as well as all the other changes. It's one of the many reasons I always complain about the special editions and why I only watch the theatrical version. But Disney, in their infinite wisdom, decided it'd be a good idea to change it again, where it's still the special edition version where Greedo shoots and Han dodges it and then Han shoots. But they added an extra line of Huttese alien language for Greedo that he says just before he fires. And it sounds like the word Maclunkey. And people are like, what the hell is Maclunkey? What the hell is going on? Why did they change it again?
Is it an in-joke somewhere in LucasArts?
I think it's some poor Disney executive or some poor guy at Disney who, I don't know why they decided to change it, but I think they decided to, this is my theory, is that Maclunkey means draw. And that they were trying to make it even more honorable than George Lucas's weird, fucked up morality, weird thing that he was trying to imprint on the scene.
Yeah.
Where Greedo was saying, like, draw, and then they both fire at the same time. That's my weird theory. But it's just so unnecessary. You've already changed it and ruined the scene. Now you're doing it again.
And this will not be the last change.
Well, that's the thing.
Pray I do not alter it further.
I'm hoping, 10 years from now, you go onto Disney Plus and you're like, oh yeah, I want to watch Iron Man 1. And all of a sudden, there's like some weird CGI stuff going on.
You
wait
20 years down the line when we're talking about Star Wars. We'll talk about how they edited it so Greedo has a lightsaber.
I wouldn't be surprised. Everyone has a lightsaber. Han has a lightsaber. Han
Solo has a lightsaber. He deflects Greedo's blaster.
Chewie's bowcaster has a lightsaber running across it, so like where the crossbow portion is.
Yeah, the definitive edition.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I went off track there.
That's all right.
But The Mandalorian, the first live-action Star Wars series, which, I mean, they've been talking about making a Star Wars TV series for decades.
I don't know if this is true or it's been in like the media or a comic strip. I think I referenced it in Penny Arcade. Was there supposed to be a live-action like Jedi school sort of teenage drama?
That doesn't ring a bell, but I wouldn't be surprised if at one point that was
because I don't know if it was just
planned,
a comic taking the piss or if that was based in reality. I'll look it up.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Feasible,
yeah,
but I don't know if that has any factual basis.
There's a long history of George Lucas saying he's going to make a TV show, and there was a Star Wars Underworld, which was, I think around the time Revenge of the Sith came out, George Lucas was like, we're making this crime show set in the Star Wars universe. It's going to be set on the lower levels of Coruscant. It's going to be about bounty hunters, and young Han Solo might show up, and then it's going to young Boba Fett might show up, and it would be this kind of, and that it would be between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope, and it'd be about the rise of the Empire, and so that was interesting, but at the time they couldn't really, I don't think they could really feasibly make a show TV show with a budget, like a Star Wars TV show with a manageable budget. So that fell through. But I think it's also because George Lucas, at the end of the day, he squandered the property.
Why can't they just be like Cheers in a cantina?
Well, that's what I was going to say, is at the end of the day, Lucas, for 15 or however many years between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace, he really squandered the property because he owned the rights. There are not many people who can say they own the rights to their to their franchise. And so he could have made any number of TV shows or there was those crappy Ewok movies, and there was the weird droids animated thing and the weird Ewok animated thing, but he never really...
Christmas special?
Yeah, well, we don't talk... Well, he didn't have anything to do with the holiday special, but he never actually... could you imagine a 90s Star Wars animated series?
That'd be cool.
In the vein of the shows we were just talking about, with gargoyles and...
Still violent.
And,
after looking it up for a bit, I couldn't find anything. It might have just been a joke.
Yeah, it's probably a joke. But you know what I'm saying? George Lucas, for so long, squandered the Star Wars property. He had such this rich, vibrant world to explore, and he could have made any number of movies, TV shows...
Yeah.
Video games they kind of made, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's true.
And like you were saying, the budget, yes, there might be a standard that people expect from Star Wars, but at the end of the day, if it was whatever they were spending on Star Trek, Deep Space Nine and TNG and Voyager, they could have spent that on Star Wars.
That's right.
And feasibly made a pretty cool Star Wars show in the 90s.
What's the difference between, as you said, Deep Space Nine and like a Jedi school show?
The only difference would be is that like
in terms of cost and
you'd probably just the alien budget, because the reason Star Trek kind of has so many humanoid aliens is because they just wanted to keep costs down, and they needed to make it easy for, an actor comes in, you slap a ridge on his forehead, and now he's an alien.
Or you slap a little horn on a dog.
Yeah. Whereas in Star Wars, they took, a little bit more of like, there's a lot of humanoid aliens, but there's also a lot of more animalistic kind of strange shaped aliens. So you need to, but then they made like Farscape.
Yeah,
that had a lot.
Jim Henson, man.
That was lots of Muppety kind of things. Yeah. So it was feed, but my point is, yes, it would have been hard, but George Lucas completely just squandered that property for years. The only thing good we got out of it was the EU, the novels, the comic books, the video games.
Some really good video games. You know what? That man, bless his heart, as much as we hate him, LucasArts is a game company.
Yeah,
back in the day, second to none.
He did use his Star Wars money to good effect on video games, like not just the Star Wars games.
Yeah,
like they really made some great adventure games.
What was that? Was it called The Dig?
Yes,
The Dig,
like a point and click.
The Dig, Loom.
All the classics.
They made some Indiana Jones point and click games.
Indiana Jones games were pretty good. What was that? It was Monkey Island, LucasArts?
Yeah. Was that Sierra?
I can't remember. Jamie, look it up.
I'll look it up.
I'm pretty sure it was LucasArts.
Yeah, but that was like the golden age of. Yeah, but anyway, so Mandalorian is the first live action. So it's taken Disney to finally milk the property dry for them to finally get that last drop of TV milk out.
And Monkey Island was LucasArts.
Very good.
Okay, yeah. And it's a show following a mysterious Mandalorian warrior. I think it's set 5 years after Return of the Jedi.
And he's played by possibly Pedro Pascal. We haven't seen his face yet.
Yeah, possibly.
He's either the voice or the actor.
Well, actually, I want to talk about this later, but as far as I know, they started shooting before he was cast. So it's possible that he's not under the helmet in every shot.
In these current episodes, yeah.
But I think in a certain amount of
we'll see his face eventually.
Yeah. What was I saying? Yeah, so it's about a Mandalorian warrior 5 years after Return of the Jedi. The Empire has kind of fallen, but there's like some warlords kind of spread around the Outer Rim while the New Republic is setting up in the core worlds. And it's basically he's like a lone gunslinger bounty hunter going around. It's a Boba Fett show without Boba Fett. I've been saying that since they announced it.
Yeah, the Mandalorian. It's always going to be Boba Fett.
But it's like on one hand it makes sense because they don't want to have the baggage of what the Boba Fett character. Yeah. They don't want to have to stick to any one thing.
That's right.
But there's so many things that are similar to Boba Fett that I was kind of like, it's like with all these new Star Wars things where it's like they're just doing the same thing over and over again.
What I noticed was, did you ever play the Old Republic online game?
I don't think I did, no.
So it was a Star Wars MMO.
Yeah.
And one of the classes is Bounty Hunter.
Yeah.
And that class was solely based on Boba Fett. Now, like the flamethrower, for example.
Yeah.
That's features heavily in that class, and like a lot of the other stuff, like a lot of the missiles that come from the arms. So I'm like, I feel like the character is like the actual visual design is based on Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of elements from like the expanded universe.
Yeah, no. So all those gadgets you just described, that's all Boba Fett stuff that they co-opted into that bounty hunter class for that video game. Whereas a bounty hunter class shouldn't have all those gadgets. That's more of that would be a Boba Fett class or a Mandalorian class.
Yeah, my point is like there's like yes, it started with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of this stuff it has become the identity of it is now larger than Boba Fett.
True. The Mandalorian the Mandalorian like
concept.
Culture and weaponry that kind of
the tribal aspect.
Went further than just Boba Fett. So that's true. But you know what I'm saying? Like, all the new Star Wars stuff feels always a little bit retready.
Look, I think Boba Fett's such a large, imposing character on Star Wars that anything related to anything Mandalorian is going to also draw parallels.
Definitely.
I think it would have been interesting if they had, like, instead of having a Boba Fett class, they had a new type of Mandalorian.
But no, but that's like, if they made a Mandalorian show about the Mandalorians, then you'd say, yeah, there's a little bit of Boba Fettness, but overall it's about the culture of the warriors and the...
that would be a very good... That'd be a different show. Yeah. That'd be an interesting idea.
But making it about a Mandalorian who's also a lone gunslinger...
And he's also legendary.
Who's also a legendary bounty hunter who carries that tuning fork pulse rifle that's from the holiday special that Boba Fett carries, you know, who freezes his
It is a cool
targets...
weapon, though.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. He freezes his targets in carbonite. You know, like...
look, it's Boba Fett, but it's not Boba Fett.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I can understand why.
Yeah, it makes sense. But it's just... like, everyone who's listening to the show knows our feelings towards the new Star Wars. And so, like, I had no... Like, a Star Wars TV show, I should be so overwhelmingly excited. I should be like...
I was cautious going in.
Me, I was like, I'm just going to watch it just for the show and we'll talk about it. And it's like, it'll... You know, I don't care if it's good or whatever. I thought it was okay. I liked it. It's fun. I don't think it's great. It's not as good as everyone's saying it is.
You know, I was actually talking about that with Nathan earlier today. I'm talking about how the hype for it made me really wary.
Yeah.
Because whenever a new movie comes out, everyone's like, oh, it's the best. Yeah. It's the best since Empire Strikes Back.
Exactly.
I'm like, no, you said that about Rogue One.
Yeah.
You were wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of people said that about Force Awakens.
Yeah.
That didn't pan out. They certainly said that about The Last Jedi.
Yeah. No, it's definitely wrong.
I don't trust public opinion anymore about Star Wars.
Yeah.
So when everyone's saying how a few people, like The Mandalorian, makes me love Star Wars again. Yeah. I'm like, do you love Star Wars or do you like bounty hunters?
And you get those people who also came out when Last Jedi was released. The people who were like, I never liked Star Wars before until now.
Yeah, it's like...
And I'm like, hang on a second.
Hold on. Do you like Star Wars or do you like Akira Kurosawa and Westerns? Because I can show you a Western. If you're liking The Mandalorian specifically and says it brings back to Star Wars, I can just show you a Western.
That's getting off track because I could go on a tangent for 4 hours about that. But this is the thing about The Mandalorian is, yes, it's a Western show and it has those influences that the original Star Wars had and that we always complain the new Star Wars doesn't have. But I think The Mandalorian also... It's a very... What's the word I'm looking for? It's this... Not safe.
It is safe.
It's a safe... It's very simple. I think it's aimed... It's definitely aimed... It's got some violence in it, but it's aimed more towards kids.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly short episodes. I thought it was going to be like a 45-minute, 50-minute proper
like
hour
the shortest
episode.
episode's like, what, 29 minutes?
Yeah, they're like half an hour to 40 minutes in between there. So it's a surprisingly short, simple, very...
I said to Callum, I'd be interested to see a supercut of all the episodes made into a movie when it's done.
Well, actually, that's one thing I will talk about later. I think the first 2 episodes should have just been one hour episode.
Yeah.
And then the third episode should have been episode 2, and they should have just expanded upon that a bit more. And you would have had 2 really great episodes instead of 3 okay episodes. But anyway, my ultimate point is, it's a simple show aimed more towards kids, just mostly action-driven. Yes, it's got those Western elements. Yes, it's got those old adventure serial elements that we like. That's the original Star Wars has, but it distills them in a way where the show is basically, in my mind, it's basically the Clone Wars and Rebels animated show live action version.
I never saw those. Like, I saw some Clone Wars. I didn't see Rebels, though. So,
like, it's a simple kids show with a darker, grittier Rogue One paint job.
Yeah.
And, like some influences from the original movies. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the end of the day, the first live-action Star Wars, I was expecting a bit more, but expecting more from Disney, you're just asking for to be let down.
That's what I was going to say. I'm like,
so
Keeper, it is from Disney.
Yeah. So what we ended up getting with The Mandalorian, it's not bad.
Yeah, considering their track record.
Yeah. Like at the end of the day, I was like, yes, it's not great, but it's just really nice to have a Star Wars thing that I don't hate.
Don't get your hopes up, because there's more shows coming that we're going to hate.
Yeah, look, we're only going to talk about the first 3 episodes.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about different shows, not in more episodes.
Oh, yeah, and that
there's
as well.
There's 2 more shows that we don't want to bar off in the studio.
Yeah, well the Obi-Wan
There's Obi-Wan and what, the lady from Rogue One, or...
Oh, no, it was the guy from the Han Solo ripoff. What's his name? Cassian. The Cassian show. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
I guarantee you we're going to hate those shows. So let's enjoy The Mandalorian while we have it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like...
But let's not expect anything in the future.
Yeah, we'll get into it soon, but I feel like the good faith they built up with the first 3 episodes is going to go downhill when they start doing all the reveals of like, oh, this guy, you know.
And here's Darth Maul.
Yeah. Oh, God. But anyway, yeah, it's nice to watch a Star Wars show where I'm not feeling hatred or like deep confusion and disappointment.
Yeah.
And instead I'm just like, oh yeah, this is all right.
Some nice practice. I mean, we'll get into all that in a sec.
Yeah. Like, yeah, it looks pretty nice, you know, the effects. It's not as good as like some of the HBO stuff. Even the Netflix stuff. I don't think it's a Netflix.
I think...
Actually, that's another thing. Like where I said it feels like a live-action kids show, like a live-action Clone Wars or Rebels. It also, because it's got that serialized kind of nature where it's just like short action episodes, like half an hour. There's not a lot of character and not a lot of story. It's mostly just like... And then the Mandalorian gets attacked by a monster kind of thing. That's why it feels like those kids shows. But also it feels like Disney, even though it's a streaming show, Disney's releasing it week to week instead of all in one binge sesh.
You would have thought Disney will learn the lessons of its streaming competitors.
Yeah, but I think one of the reasons they're doing that, and this ties into my point, is that they're making a Disney Channel show for a streaming service.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of feels like a show you could watch on TV week to week, where if you missed an episode, it doesn't matter because there's not really a lot going on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It also wouldn't surprise me
if you missed episode 2 and just watch episode 1 and 3 of Mandalorian, you're set. Like you didn't miss a lot.
Yeah, not really.
You miss him fighting the rhino
and there's
monster.
a recap at the start anyway.
Yeah. So this is my point is it's a sort of simple Disney Channel kids show with a gritty paint job that's just like an action show you can watch week to week, and if you miss an episode, it's not a big deal.
I think you're right.
Like it's not a premium streaming service story-driven show.
Also, I think you're right, and I think that's because while Disney has extensive history in like its own TV channel, they have no experience in the streaming world, and they have to I feel like there's going to be some growing pains with Disney Plus as they sort of try to grow into streaming, because they're competing with all these other services that, while they may say entertain adults more primarily than kids with a lot of their shows, like they still have a more of a bingeable arc. Like a lot of the shows aren't built like they are on a TV show anymore.
Yeah,
like a traditional TV channel.
It's still early days.
It's still early days.
What I will say is, it won't surprise me if the reason they're doing this is to keep people on the service. So if they dumped The Mandalorian all at once,
people could sign up for the free trial
7 days and watch The Mandalorian and then cancel.
Yeah.
So this way, you have to kind of stick with it. You have to pay at least once. If you're not a pirate and you want to watch it start to finish, you're paying at least once. Whether that be towards the end of season 1's lifespan, or you're going to watch it week to week.
They have to keep dragging people out till they can get that Marvel show going.
Yeah. That's also like why I subscribe for the whole year, because I'm like, well, Mandalorian comes out week to week, so I'm like, I'm gonna have to have it at least for 10-ish weeks or however many episodes there are, and then the Marvel shows are coming out, so it's like, I might as well just
that, and I'll be very happy to subscribe just passively once they get The Simpsons fixed.
Yeah, that'd be great, and
background TV sorted.
Exactly, especially just chuck on the background.
Seasons.
Yeah. Well, last night I was ready to go to bed, and I was just kind of like, I had some just cleaning up to do before I wanted to go to bed, and I was like, I chucked on that Jeff Goldblum show. And
Is it any good?
Yeah, it's really cool. He's such an oddball. It's so fun. But it's good to have like background stuff, which I mean Netflix has a lot of, but Disney is like perfect for that because you got all these old cartoons. You got Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Oh, chuck that on the background. That'd be fun. Doug, remember Doug? Recess.
One thing I do like about this streaming service is our generation will be able to say, if we ever have children or whatever, we'll be able to say, this is what I used to watch when I was a kid. Here's Recess in its entirety.
Speaking of like 90s Star Wars EU and it being the best, like 90s cartoons were the best.
I'm like, do you know the Ghostbusters TV show?
At least we get access to some of that stuff.
There was like the 80s Ghostbusters. There's like it's called Real Ghostbusters because they couldn't get the rights to the Ghostbusters cartoon name because there was already a Ghostbusters cartoon that wasn't based on the movie. And then there was Extreme Ghostbusters, which came out like the 2000s or something, which is like the hip reboot version.
No.
Anyway, what were we talking about? Sorry.
We're talking about Disney struggling to, I guess,
it's still
fit into the streaming world. It is early days, but if they continue developing programs with that Disney Channel sort of mindset, I reckon they're going to have a hard time.
Especially with the Marvel shows, if that's what they feel like, that's going to be the worst.
Yeah, because it's like...
Because those shows, especially if they're going to tie into the movies, they can't just be like short, action... Yeah,
it's going to be rough, but
do you remember in Twin Peaks? It's going to be a Twin Peaks situation where
it's going to be the opposite of Twin Peaks.
Week to week, you're going to have to wait a whole week to see what the payoff is for the next episode. I'm like, just release it all.
Yeah,
it's gonna they're going to be once a week. I guarantee it.
Yeah, but not just the release gap. I'm talking about the actual story and character of it. Like, it feels like they're still making just
because I
don't want to say the word cheap, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
it's kind of cheap. It's a TV show in
a premium streaming world.
Yeah.
Or because they can't
premium cable.
They can't make these mistakes with Marvel, man.
Yeah. I don't understand when you say that. It's like I don't understand why it is cheaper than it should be. And I don't know how much they spent, but I do see what you mean. I feel like there is
it's
something...
not cheap. I mean, the set design is not cheap. It's the structure.
Yeah. The structure and the story, the way the stories unfold and how it's...
There's nothing about the way the show is made that says it's cheap. It's the way they structure
like they're rushing. It's like they're rushing to get through the episodes.
If you watch Game of Thrones Season 1 and Game of Thrones Season 8, the production design stayed incredible. Like, it stayed great. But the story and characters is where the problem started. So season 1 is like so slow and you just get characters like talking and there's like... But by season 8, it's just like dumb things happening and lots of action and lots of scenes happening in quick succession. So it's like The Mandalorian can look cool in terms of special effects and production and costume design, but the way it like moves and... the scenes and the way people talk.
It's rushy.
Yeah, it's like
filler.
Yeah, like a quick kids TV show. And then he fights the monster, and then he goes and he sees the guy and he fights the bad guy, and the end.
He's got to get his shit back from the Jawas this week.
Yeah, and then there's a cliffhanger, and then it's like next episode, and then there's a short recap, and so if you missed it,
every episode the baby does something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're only going to be talking about the first 3 episodes.
Full spoiler warning.
Yeah. So, like, all our opinions are based on
what's been released so far,
which isn't a lot. So, I've been talking a lot about the structure of the show and not a lot of character and story. So that might change as it goes, but at the moment, this is what I'm seeing from it.
Yeah. You know what it reminds me of? And this is a manga. This is quite an older manga. Have you read Lone Wolf and Cub?
Yeah.
It almost a bit of that about it, I reckon.
Well, that's... I was saying, I think before we turned the mics on, I don't think I said this on air. I said the Mandalorian show would be better if it was just him protecting the baby and there was like a Samurai Jack show with no dialogue, no... That way it would... Because at the moment the show is pretending to be a premium cable show with story and characters, but in reality it's just a kids show with action.
Yeah.
Whereas if you made a Lone Wolf and Cub type show where he's protecting the kid, then it's more of like just an action show, like a Samurai Jack, like no dialogue, just... That would be really cool, I think.
That's the Netflix version, which we'll never
get.
Yeah. I said to you before, the other alternative is 3 Mandalorian and a baby.
Yeah,
and it's a comedy.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing. Like
a sitcom.
Yeah,
like,
they have to keep,
like, you know how you were saying,
the baby alive.
Yeah, you know how you were saying like should just be Cheers like in a cantina, which is kind of like they do that in the holiday special. Like it's like a weird anyway. So like, they probably shouldn't do that.
But this week, Baby Yoda gets hold of the flamethrower. Oh no!
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So
did I do that? Remember Dinosaurs? Was it called Dinosaurs?
Yeah.
With like the puppet and the little baby.
Yeah.
Oh man, so good. That's a show that needs to be on a streaming service because I don't think it's on Netflix or Amazon.
Oh man, I missed that show.
Oh man. Anyway, so spoilers for the first 3 episodes of The Mandalorian, aka Mandy the Mandalorian, which is what I call him. All my notes are out of order.
That's fine.
But I thought we could break the discussion up into each separate episode.
Yeah.
So, first episode, what happens? I can't remember now.
He's a badass in a bar.
Oh, yeah. Mandy goes into a cantina.
In the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, in this like frozen tundra world. And he fights these guys and he one's a, what do you call it? A target, a bounty.
Yeah.
Like a guy. And he takes him. So first thing I thought was stupid is that he has to cross this frozen lake just to get back to his ship.
You just park outside the bar, man.
Why did he park all the way out there? And why did he need to pay for transport to get out there? This is why it feels like a dumb kids show, is because it's written like a dumb kids show, where it's like he has to get across the ice and he gets in the ship, but then the big monster thing comes out of the ice and he has to poke it with his stick, and then like it feels like very, Also, the blue guy that he kidnaps, like it's very that Marvel kind of dumb humor.
Yeah.
And it doesn't fit Star Wars. It's not as bad as like Last Jedi style slapsticky, but Disney's definitely doubling down and sticking to that kind of modern Marvel style humor where the aliens are kind of jokey and I don't like it. It doesn't fit Star Wars.
No, it doesn't.
But it's like I said, it's not as bad as other. Even like Brian Posehn was the speeder driver. And I'm just like, they're definitely, and Bill Burr is in one of the later episodes that hasn't aired yet. So they're definitely going for a thing, and I don't like it. But yeah, he goes and he collects his reward from Carl Weathers.
Yep.
What? I don't know. The character's name's Grief.
Can we just call him Carl Weathers? Because I like to think he's like as Carl Weathers.
I like to think he's just the character from Arrested Development.
Yeah.
And like, he's just like, and you got a stew. What does he say? And
you got a stew going.
Yeah.
But he fits into the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, he does.
Because other than Billy D, Carl Weathers is like the cool black guy in the universe with the mustache.
Yeah,
like he just fits into that role really well.
The way he lounges as well.
Yeah,
I thought that was
and
really
I love
cool.
his costume. It feels very original trilogy.
He original gangster.
Yeah. So he's the guy he's part of the Bounty Hunters Guild.
Yeah, which I like.
Yeah.
Like, I like that concept.
That's all like, that's cool, like old EU kind of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like there's books about like the guilds.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
there was the Bounty Hunter Wars where Boba Fett, like I think Darth Vader hired Boba Fett to break up the Bounty Hunter Guild by like infiltrating it. But then Boba Fett realizing that like he was being double crossed. It's like a whole trilogy of old EU books about it. But anyway, I also like in the scene where Carl Weathers tries to pay him with Imperial credits, and he's like, "These are no good anymore. The Empire doesn't exist." And then he's like, "Okay, here are some Mon Calamari credits." And I was just like, "This is some 90s EU shit, and I love it."
Yeah, I said that.
This is straight out of the books.
I wrote that down. I'm like, world building.
Yeah, out of all, it's like one, it's world building, which we don't see in the new movies. But 2, out of all Disney's, like, Disney, like, completely erasing the original EU, like, this stuff is, like, straight out of that.
I actually wrote that. I'm like, because one of the problems we have with the new Disney trilogy is they don't explain what happened to the Empire and where the First Order came from.
Yeah.
I'm not reading the books.
No.
Right? Don't show me
You shouldn't
the
have
books.
to, yeah.
Yeah. Like, so I love the fact that he's like, it's like reaffirms the original trilogy.
Yeah.
It's almost like, I don't care about the Empire. They're done. Give me something I can use.
Exactly. But it also, like, it's also something that would happen 5 years after, like, and does happen.
The money's made
EU.
redundant.
Like, in the EU, like, there's still like the Imperial remnant still running around paying people with Imperial credits, and there are some people getting pissed off about that, and this show takes that.
Yeah, so what do you want me to do with those?
Whether they knew they were adapting that or not, doesn't matter. Like, it's a perfect world building. Anyway, he wants a big score, Mandy. Yeah. But Mandy's also, like, obviously he's stoic and a loner, which is, typical of that kind of character. But also, he seems to be running away, I think is the implication, because he wants to take the bounties that are furthest away.
Yeah.
But he wants a bounty that's, like, not just a regular one. So...
running away from his problems.
Yeah. Carl Weathers sends him to Werner Herzog, which is like the weirdest Star Wars casting choice, who gives him a secret off the books non-guild job.
I'm not saying I was a Nazi in the war.
Yeah,
but
listen to my accent. I guess if you are going to get a guy to play an Imperial officer, a guy who sounds like a Nazi, it makes sense.
He should have had just like remnants of the Stormtrooper armor, and being like, I'm not an Imperialist.
Well, he has that big like Imperial signal.
But I would have just liked if he was a little bit more undercover than that, than being out and about with it.
Yeah. Well, he's surrounded by stormtroopers.
But it should be a bit more subtle.
Yeah.
I'd love it if there was like a rich guy. You know how every now and again, there was a documentary. No, it wasn't a documentary. It was what was that TV show that had Billy on the Street? What was his name? What's his name? The comedian.
Yeah.
Billy
Eisner.
Yeah. He had a TV show where he's at some rich guy's house, and the rich guy's showing him around, and he has a secret Nazi room, and it's like swastikas everywhere, whatever, and everyone's like, "Oh, very cool." I would love if it's like that in the Star Wars universe, where there's like some guy who has a secret Imperial room where it's just like all kinds of like collection.
You know what would have made that crappy Canto Bight scene so much better in Last Jedi if they were like they went there. And instead of just being like, war is bad, MK, and being rich it leads this war profiteering and all this crap, they could have been like, oh yeah, here's this cool rich guy, but he secretly was an Imperial, like he's a Imperial officer who's wanted for war crimes.
Yeah, he was like hiding, a tough,
who's hiding out as this like rich gambler guy. That would be cool.
Yeah.
This is all cool EU stuff that they've completely erased. But anyway. What were we talking about?
So he gets a contract.
And the target is a 50-year-old
unidentified. Yeah, they have no information about it other than age and a location.
Here's another thing that I don't like, that I feels like just there to make things simple and easy, and to make things more not kid friendly, but to make things
less
easier to follow.
Yeah,
is that each bounty hunter is given a tracking fob, and just it automatically somehow magically tracks their bounty, which makes no sense and defeats the purpose of having a bounty hunter needing to track down their prey.
This guy could have just sent his stormtroopers to send a couple of guys to go get it. Why are you paying someone?
Exactly. Like, it doesn't make sense, like, how they get that tracking device on the bounty. If you could get a tracking device on the bounty, then you already know where they are. You can already capture them or kill them. So it's just a silly...
Especially because, like, if you're as rich as the Empire... You could just our boy Mandy goes and he finds these people.
Yeah.
But if you're in the Empire, you could just pay the guys who are like getting into shootouts with all these other people. Just pay them off.
Exactly. And actually, that's another thing is like I like how you said that if you're as rich as the Empire, I like how they pay him in that, like, I think it's called Beskar steel.
Yeah.
That's really cool. But also it's like Nazi gold. It's got like the little Imperial.
Yeah. Everyone looks down on it just a little bit.
Yeah.
And Billy D's like,
so that was cool.
Billy D. That was a bit racist. Carl Weathers.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Did you do it on purpose?
No.
Look, at least he didn't say Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Hey, I wouldn't mind seeing him again.
Samuel Jackson, returns.
Nice
the cloning stuff is not out of the question. So I feel like they could definitely do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
should they do it? No. Will they do it? Maybe. Palpa coming back.
Do you reckon they'll bring Luke back?
What was that thing in the EU? Was it Luke with 2 U's? Luke.
Well, I don't know, but I
think he was. There was like this really stupid thing in the EU where like Luke battles his own clone, and it's like Luke but with an extra U.
That wouldn't
It's the
surprise me.
dumbest thing. It's the dumbest thing. I can't remember exactly what happens. But
I know that Palpatine clones himself, and then there's like whole dramas where Palpatine tries to convince Luke he's a clone.
Well, yeah. We'll see what happens in Rise of Skywalker because I feel like it's going to get pretty dumb. What else happens?
So moving on. So they track down the target, and there's a bounty hunter droid.
Yeah. So this is another thing why it's a Boba Fett show and not a. It's IG-88, except it's not. It's IG-11, who's just another of the same robot design. But for some weird reason, he's voiced by Taika Waititi, which is so, like, the weirdest casting choice. But I'm glad he just plays a kind of straight-laced robot and not a funny, goofy, like Korg.
Not a Kiwi robot.
I'm glad they didn't, like, put, like, Korg in the Star Wars universe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
One thing I will say, the effects for the IG robot, fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the best thing I've seen from Star Wars since Return of the Jedi in terms of special effects, just because of the way that IG
was it practical?
moves. I feel it was mostly CGI, but like when there's close-ups, it's like a practical droid, which is cool, which is what Force Awakens and Rogue One didn't do. One thing I complained about in Rogue One was that K2SO was just CGI all the time, even on close-ups when he didn't need to be. And one of the best things about this show is that close-ups of the IG robot are like a practical animatronic thing.
Yeah.
And just the way he moves in that weird janky robot, but he can also spin around 360 degrees. But
that's
like
cool.
his arms can spin while his legs stay straight, and his head can spin around while his body stays straight. That I thought was really well done. And yeah, he teams up. He's also
a member of the guild.
He's also a bounty hunter.
I like how they have a little argument though about who gets recognition and who gets the money. And
Mandy's like, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it's like they agree.
And the robot's like, no, I need an answer now.
They agree to kind of split the profits.
Yeah,
both. And then they find the target,
which is a baby.
And they're like, how can you be 50 years old? Because it's a Yoda baby. It's a little green Yoda species.
It's adorable.
Which is adorable, but also very, very fan servicey.
Yeah.
And like to the point where I was just like, And then the IG unit says, it's the bounty says it can be taken dead, so he goes to shoot it, but Mandy shoots him in the head. Because Mandy hates droids, because in a flashback you see his family getting murdered by battle droids. So that's going to come into play. I just really hope they don't show that Mandy's parents were actually related to X guy from Clone Wars, or X guy from the prequels, or X guy from the
I hope they're nobodies.
Yeah, but like they're going to do it, right? They're going to have some big reveal where it's like Mace Windu's cousin's second uncle's. You know what I mean? Or they're going to be like Rey's, when they reveal Rey's parents, or if they do that.
She's third cousin with Mandy.
She's actually a Mandalorian warrior. I wouldn't be surprised. That's why she's so powerful,
The Force, yeah.
Oh, you know what? You know why she's so powerful? The Force. She's a Yoda. She's the Yoda baby.
They were splicing Yoda DNA into babies, and that's how Rey was made.
Well, we'll talk about that in the third episode when he delivers the baby to the Imperial doctor guy.
Yeah,
and he's like talking to Werner Herzog, and he says something like, "Oh, we extracted the material," and I was like, if they bring midichlorians back, I'm gonna be so fucking mad. But they might just be doing like a cloning thing, or like But see, this is another thing. I hope they don't be like, he's actually Yoda's little baby clone.
Oh,
God. They're gonna pull that shit, because then they reveal. Because as soon as I saw Baby Yoda, I was like, please don't have force powers. Please don't have force powers. Too. And then of course he has force powers. I keep saying this every time a new Star Wars property comes out. I would like one Star Wars property without any Jedi and without any lightsabers.
That's right,
one fucking thing about a guy who's just a smuggler or a bounty hunter or a X-Wing pilot.
It's a big universe.
Exactly.
You know what I'm like? Not everything has to revolve around the Force.
Yeah, and
you want
the
Top
Force
Gun in space. You want Top Gun in Star
Rogue
Wars?
Squadron,
just a little bit gay, but you
Rogue
love it
Squadron,
anyway.
That's right.
Exactly. But you do know if they made a Rogue Squadron movie, they would try to force in the Force somewhere.
Oh, there would have to be a
one
Jedi
of them.
involved.
One of the rogue people would have an inkling about where an enemy's going to come from, and there'd be a whole thing.
Yeah, it's just, so like just once I would like it. Han Solo movie was the perfect place to do that. And what do? Fucking Morley D. Darth Maul comes back.
It sounds like his rapper name.
Yeah, and not only does he come back, but he has to ignite his lightsaber while on a Skype call, just to make the point of like, I'm Darth Maul, just in case people didn't know.
Well, one thing I did like about this show: vibro knives.
Yes, vibro blades confirmed. I guess.
Yes, that's awesome. That's cool because that's EU stuff.
Yeah. That's cool.
Vibro blades.
Because that way you get the cool weaponry without the lightsabers.
Yeah, and it's like you can have the cool like swords without having it to be a laser sword.
Yeah, and Twi'leks are back in it, which I think we talked about.
Oh, that's the other thing is like
old school races.
Like old school alien species. Radians, Trandoshans, Twi'leks, a couple other ones as well.
Because we thought they were gone for good, pretty much.
Yeah, for some reason, someone in Disney hated a whole lot of the original races.
Even, if I'm not mistaken, even the Solo movie, like, you don't really see a lot of classic alien races. And the new alien races you do see, especially in Last Jedi, are really dumb looking.
They're
silly. And, like, they kept saying about how they were going to use practical effects in the new movies to mimic the original movies. But then there was so much CGI crap everywhere.
You don't need to mimic them, just use...
Yeah, and the practical effects they did use, like, it looked like they were deliberately trying to make them look like shit to pretend like it was being made in the 70s and 80s. But the movies in the 70s and 80s weren't trying to look like shit. They were trying to look like the best. And when we watched it in 4K, none of that looked shit.
No, it held up.
Even fucking Salacious Crumb, the little, like, in Jabba's palace... Like, even the most Muppety of Muppets looked amazing.
Yeah.
When you get to Force Awakens and the new movies, and it's like just these little weird stick puppets, and like it feels very cheap.
Look, one thing So in the first episode of The Mandalorian, our boy Mandy has to travel across a desert, and to do that he needs to ride on some creature. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, Gorg or something,
But now I thought, what a waste of an opportunity to have a practical mount.
Well,
like, I understand that I did
appreciate that it seemed like in some shots there was at least one close-up that I think was a practical thing.
Maybe. But I feel like you have all this money, you're Disney.
Yeah.
Why can't you have a practical mount?
I feel like it's also, like we said, the TV show element of it, like the budget is going to be extremely high. But it is a Star Wars TV show, so you better put that money
That's
in.
right. That's like they have more money than
anyone else. If Game of Thrones and The Witcher and all that are putting in all that money...
Yeah, you're competing.
And you're Disney. You're the gods of...
You're directly competing against other properties who are investing more... Not more money, but I feel like they're investing more effort.
Yeah.
On a quick unrelated note, so I read a quote from someone who's watched a few of the, a review screening of The Witcher episodes.
Oh, okay.
They reckon the fight scenes put Game of Thrones' best fight scenes to shame.
We talked about this last time the last trailer came out, and I was like, the fight scenes, the battle scenes look legit.
Well, allegedly, it's choice as brew.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving back on.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, though. It's like you can't not compete when you've got...
Yeah, you've got all
that.
Yeah, you've got these competitors.
Yeah.
Don't skimp
but
out.
But also, like I was saying, like it's Disney, so they're going to put minimal effort. They're going to put minimal... It's like
they have so much money. It's a Star Wars show.
Yeah.
Now's where you go big.
You go balls to the wall in Star Wars.
I said this earlier, didn't I? They should have combined episode 1 and 2, and episode 3 should have been episode 2, but longer. Like, this show should have been a premium streaming, story, character-driven show, and not a half an hour. Because I was so surprised when it was half an hour, and I was just like, what? You know, like, it's just a simple action show.
Because you said, I just love how there'll be an emotional moment, and it'll zoom in on his helmet.
Yeah.
I think
that's classic.
I actually laughed. I'm like, see, it kind of works. Like, there are moments where you can tell the emotion, even though he has the helmet.
It's the classic Darth Vader thing, where a close-up of Darth Vader means nothing, but depending on what you cut on either side, it's the guy. There's this old silent movie footage of a guy just looking sort of slightly off camera, and they edited it in like a pie on a windowsill before and after that shot. and people are like, wow, that guy looks so hungry. And then they use the exact same shot, but instead of the pie, they put like a baby crying or something. And he's like, oh, that guy looks so sad.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the editing that kind of...
Yeah.
So it's that Darth Vader thing where Darth Vader doesn't have expressions, but depending on what's happening around him, you can see in his face. When Luke is getting electrocuted by the Emperor, you can see the conflict in Darth Vader's face, even though he's got that. And it's the same with the Mandalorian. He'll be like thinking about something, and it'll zoom in on his helmet, and it's like,
I laughed out loud.
You can tell he's sad in this moment. You know? The power of filmmaking. That's the other thing.
Because the filmmaker knows what they're doing a little bit.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of stuff in The Mandalorian I don't like, but you can kind of tell they're on the right track, whereas like the movies are just like completely off track.
Yeah.
I think it's helped though, but is Jon Favreau, did he showrun the whole season?
Yeah, he created the show. I think he's the showrunner. I'm not exactly sure.
He's been involved in every single episode so far. At least he's written every episode so far.
Yeah. Dave Filoni directed the first episode, and Dave Filoni's like, he created the Rebels show, and he was like, I think a producer on like the Clone Wars, and he's big into that like side of things. So him and Favreau seem to be like like the guiding force of this Mandalorian show.
I think that's a strength.
Like, one thing I'll say about Filoni is that he deeply cares about the lore and the universe. Unfortunately, it's the wrong lore and universe. It's the prequel stuff. Yeah. It's the Clone Wars stuff. But you can tell he cares about that stuff. And that comes across in the show. And Favreau, I guess, having written the episodes, even though I think a lot of them are poorly written because of how silly and kiddie they are.
Yeah.
Like, when you get into the Mandalorian lore, which is the strength of the show...
I wonder how much his original vision was different to what we got. How much Disney interference was there?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Like, one of my wishes, which I think I might have talked about on a Star Wars episode, one of my wishes is just to be a fly on the wall in the room when they make these shows and movies. Yeah. And just being like, how much is Disney interference? How much is it the director and the writer?
There was a recent update when Kathleen Kennedy actually said that it's hard to make an original movie because they don't have any source material to draw from.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, this is a recent development.
Yeah. I'm playing the tiniest violin.
Yeah. So keep in mind, this is the company that single-handedly erased from canon close to 30 years of expanded universe history, including comics, video games, and movies.
Novels.
And now they're saying they don't have any source material to draw from. That's because you burns it all.
Yeah.
To quote Ned Flanders from an episode of The Simpsons, which I can't remember the episode number, we've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas.
Yeah. It's that thing of like, even if they didn't have 30 years of EU content to draw from, to say, it's too hard to make a Star Wars show or movie. Like,
where did the EU come from? It didn't come from nowhere.
Exactly. Like, you just...
We can write one, send us a check.
Exactly. Like, it's such a rich world. You can just...
You want to tell me, like, some kid after Return of the Jedi, even after New Hope, wasn't sitting there thinking up his own stories because of how fertile that ground is.
It's the problem with Disney. They lack vision. They lack understanding of Star Wars. They lack a passion for it. And even though, like I said, J.J. Abrams has you can tell he loves Star Wars, he doesn't get it.
No. Like, you think, like, Thrawn, one of the greatest Star Wars bad guys of all time, is post-movie, right? He was imagined by an author, Timothy Zahn.
Timothy Zahn, yeah.
Yeah, and, like, I'm like...
And it was so good that after Disney erased the EU, they brought Timothy Zahn back to write Thrawn into the new canon. Yeah. That's how good it was.
Yeah. I'm like, you're telling me you can't create good original stories in Star Wars.
Yeah. But
come on.
This is why I'm a bit wary about the retreading of the Star Wars, all the Star Wars properties since the originals. Yeah. Like, it feels like they don't know what to do with this huge universe.
Like, don't get me wrong, the expanded universe wasn't perfect. We've talked about it before.
Yeah,
they had a lot of
dumb stuff.
They did retread the Death Star idea over and over again. Yeah. But they also had a good idea of the characters.
Yeah.
They did eventually take it in some interesting places.
Yeah.
They don't seem to be willing to do that under Disney.
No. I think The Mandalorian has some small hints of that, but still definitely feels like a safe Disney. And like I said, Filoni, even though you got to give him props for his like dedication to the canon and love of the lore, unfortunately at the end of the day, it's the crappy George Lucas prequel canon and lore, and you know the Clone Wars animated series lore. That's where the problems, you know. But you got to give him props, and Jon Favreau as well. I guess you know.
I feel like they tried their best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So second episode, the sin,
the child.
Yeah.
What was the first episodes? What was was it just called The Mandalorian?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The second episode is kind of, I guess, I would call it the most boring episode.
Yeah. Another reason why they should have just combined it with and why if you miss it, it's not a big deal.
He just basically this episode he just has to get his shit back from Jawas. Basically, not a lot happens. I will say good swashbuckling.
Yeah, some good swashbuckling. I will say that the Sandcrawler, the crawling fortress was cool.
Yeah. Well, that's the first time we've seen the Sandcrawler like in action, I guess.
Yeah.
Because in the original movie, it's just slowly moving over the dunes, and then we see inside when C-3PO and R2 are kind of. This is the first time we've seen it like moving quickly.
I thought it was cool.
Like piloting. It's not bad.
And we see some baby Yoda force powers, but nothing really happens in this episode.
To get the Jawas strip his ship, get the parts back, instead of just murdering them all with his pulse rifle, which disintegrates people on contact, he has to make a deal with them where he has to get an egg from a cave to trade for his parts back. So he goes, but there's this big rhino alien, and he gets his ass completely kicked. But Baby Yoda uses his little baby force powers
to hold it in place
to hold the rhino back, and Mandy defeats it.
Luckily, he doesn't force himself to death like Luke does. He
just passes out because his little baby doesn't have a lot of energy, and so he does pass out, but he doesn't kill himself. if baby Yoda can hold back a rhino, then Luke can force project without dying. Rian Johnson, thank you very much.
But at the end of it, he gets his ship back, and
he gives them the egg, and they just eat it like it's not a special magical egg or anything. And then he gets his
and he hands in the baby, and that's about it.
Yeah,
gets his sweet money.
Yeah,
gets a new coat in your outfit.
Yeah, actually, that's in the third episode though. Yeah, which I guess we can move on to that. But I just wanted to say, like, Baby Yoda being 50 years old, because Yoda species live for so long, that just raises questions where it's like, if you're a baby for 50 years, who's going to take care of you for that long?
Other Yoda.
That's a misunderstanding. Like, I think that their idea to make him a baby was a bit silly.
Yeah.
And I know they're like, well, they mature at a different rate.
Yeah. I guess, just raises questions of, like, this society of aliens, like, would have to stay, like, the resources.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to always have a group of people looking after babies for a century, half a century.
If you live for thousands of years,
your sense of time is probably a little different than ours as well.
True, yeah. And I guess it is good that the Yoda species has never been named, and we don't know who they are, where they're from. But
Yodans?
We can call them Yodans. That's a good a name as any. But one thing, like, the problem I have is that I feel like this show's definitely going into, like, we're going to explain it.
I don't want that.
Like I was saying, where I don't want there to be connections to be like, this is actually this guy's uncle. Like, I'm hoping they're not like, the reason he's so powerful is because all the Yoda species have the Force, and that they're from this special Jedi planet, and they're born in the planet, and they're born from the Force.
They're all midichlorians.
Yeah, and I really hope they don't do that.
They're going to go to Dagobah.
I really hope they don't.
Search your feelings, James.
Third episode, which is... The third episode had the most potential. We almost got a John Wick moment.
Oh, well, this is... Actually, I have that in my notes later. We'll talk about that. That kind of... It ties into my idea of the show's just an action show. Like, it's just like him on a revenge kind of quest. There's not a lot to it.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's only the first 3 episodes and there's going to be more. But yeah, at the moment, it's definitely very bare bones in terms of the character and the storytelling. And there's been flashbacks and stuff, but nothing really.
Yeah.
And I know we haven't seen like Gina Carano's character, and we haven't seen Giancarlo Esposito's character yet. So it's like there's more coming, but at the moment, it's still pretty light, you know. But little baby Yoda, he's like playing with the little knob thing on the...
like, that's not a toy.
Yeah. On the little gear shift knob thing. That's fun. Yeah, and then what's his name? Mandy turns him...
Can I just say one thing? I love how whenever Mandy has to physically interact with Baby Yoda, it's a puppet. Not a puppet.
Yeah.
It's like a little, kind of like a little thing in a...
Well, yeah.
I like the fact that he's not just lifting a CG item. He's actually lifting... like a bundle?
A bundle, yeah. There's some dodgy CGI, but like the practical effects are really well done. I
also like the costume design of the aliens and like the prosthetics.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel like they actually did put effort into the practical design.
Yeah. The aliens there look less stupid than they do in the new movies.
Yeah, they do.
And especially, like we said, there's like the more classic alien races, so that helps as well.
Before the First Order killed them all.
Yeah. Also, one thing I do like is the design of the blasters looks pretty accurate to the original movies.
Yeah.
But one thing I have a problem with, and this is a big problem I have with all the new Star Wars movies, but especially I had this problem in Solo and I think Rogue One as well. But the blaster sound is not the traditional Star Wars blaster sound anymore. Disney seems to have erased that classic sound design of Star Wars. They seem to be going in a weird generic sci-fi direction with the sound effects, and I don't like it. I had this problem, I think, with all the new movies, but Solo especially, where the blaster sounds are very low, they're low, like there's no power or punch, and also it's not that classic Star Wars pew, you know? It's just a generic laser sound. So this show continues on with that, and I really hate it. And I think it just might be just every Disney property now. Because every Star Wars thing from 83 until 99, every video game used that sound. Every audio book where you heard a laser blast used that sound. Even though there were no movies or TV shows in between, you know, even, I'm pretty sure, So, and now they seem to be slowly kind of erasing that from the history. And that's kind of Disney's thing, like we were saying with the alien races. Yeah, just like getting rid of all the EU, starting again, we talked about this in our Star Wars reviews, is like taking the original movies, using them as nostalgia bait, but not actually
paying that off.
Building on top of them and building around them, you know, just using it as, remember, it's just member, but without actually crafting anything from that. So I'm disappointed in that. But otherwise, the blasters look cool. Look cooler. Yeah. They look cooler
Visual
than they do.
Design, yeah,
they look cooler than they do in the new like Disney movies.
I like the visor, old school visor graphics too.
Oh yeah, with the macro binoculars, and the kind of
cool.
Grainy. Yeah. I do like all the different Mandalorian helmets and all that.
Yeah.
You know, all the armors, you know, because they're all different. That's cool. Yeah, well, so he
gets a boatload of cash.
Yeah, he delivers Baby Yoda to Werner Herzog. He gives him the Nazi gold, the Beskar steel, I think.
And he feels slightly guilty, but he takes the money.
But he takes it, and then the Mandalorian armorer creates like new armor for him.
And everyone's sort of getting in his face about it.
Yeah, and they're like, you took, because the Imperials wiped out Mandalore,
the
Mandalorians
homeworld. Hate the Imperials.
So and they're like, how could you work for them? And he gets like a new suit of armor created out of the steel, which is like, it's just like the super strong.
Yeah.
I think it also has some sort of cultural significance, if I'm not mistaken, to Mandalorians.
Yeah.
It seems to be important. I think it's from the homeworld, I guess. So that's cool. This ties into my John Wick point, which maybe we'll talk about later. It feels, like I said, it's just a simple action kids show. It feels also like a video game where he does his quest, he fights a monster, then he gets steel as a reward, and then he can use that steel to upgrade his armor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Give a little bit for the kids.
Yeah. So like,
the foundlings.
The foundlings. That's also cool. Like, I guess, you know,
they are the future.
Yeah. He says he's a foundling, and you see the flashback of his parents being killed. So they're definitely gonna, you know, show how he was I guess, adopted by the Mandalorians and raised by them, and how, he might, what do you call it?
Baby Yoda might be a foundling. He might be. Can you imagine baby Yoda bounty hunting?
Yeah, this ties into my Lone Wolf and Cub thing that I was talking about before, where it should be about a Mandalorian who takes in a child and like has to protect him, and it's just a run and gun like action Samurai Jack show, and it's just about him teaching him how to be a Mandalorian. That's a much better show.
So a little baby Yoda alien puts on a little baby Yoda Mandalorian helmet.
No, but with little holes for the ears. Or should he have armor ears? Armored ears.
A little blaster.
Well, Yoda had a little baby lightsaber in Attack of the Clones, and that was dumb. So having a little Mandalorian blaster wouldn't.
No, a real size blaster.
No. You know what it should be? You know his big pulse rifle with the fork. It should be a miniature version of that. A little baby Yoda version of the rifle.
A little lighter flamethrower.
Send us a check.
Yeah.
That's a toy I'd buy.
Oh man. Yeah, if all they want to do is sell toys,
Baby Yoda, that's it.
Baby Yoda.
I will legit buy a Baby
Yoda with a Mandalorian
optional Mandalorian armor set.
With a detachable Mandalorian armor. Yeah. Yeah. I like the idea of the dirty stormtroopers, but I don't know how I feel about.
I don't know why they're dirty. Just clean the suits,
exactly.
guys.
Like in the original EU, 5, 10, even maybe 15 years after, maybe not 15 years, 5 to 10 years after Return of the Jedi, there was the Imperial Remnant who were still going around fighting,
or whatever.
and they still had a lot of resources. They still had Star Destroyers and TIE Fighters. They still had a lot of pilots and a lot of stormtroopers. And yes, they had resource problems, but they still had enough that they could pay people off. They could, they had influence, and their stormtroopers and that still look like stormtroopers. And the New Republic was, the rebellion was trying to form the New Republic, and they still had to struggle with the Empire. Like, the Empire just didn't die out.
They just didn't control like the governments
exactly,
anymore.
Which makes sense, and it's an interesting thing to explore, not only just through action, but also politically. The new canon gets rid of that, and we don't know what happened between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens. There's a book apparently that explains about there's some dumb demilitarization the rebellion had, and that's why the First Order was allowed. It's dumb, and it's not explained, and we shouldn't have to read it to understand where the First Order came from.
As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I don't care.
This show has the ability to explain some of that, but it feels like they're definitely going for a more stripped down. The Empire's gone, and there's only a few guys left, and that's why that's why I'm not sure how to feel about it. I feel like it's kind of...
I think they're symbolically dirty.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to be actually physically dirty.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it feels like Disney's quick new canon version of saying, like, the Empire's gone, there's a few more, they're going to die out soon, we don't have to explain the New Republic, we don't have to explain where the First Order came from. It's not bad, it's just a different interpretation.
Yeah, I'd feel, if I was told I had to explain all this stuff and I was Jon Favreau, I'd honestly be pretty pissed off. I'd be like, you want me to explain your shitty decisions.
Yeah, this is why I'm surprised and a bit disappointed that it's not a full, hour drama. Like, it should be a show, if it's going to be set between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, maybe they should have just straight up made a show about the transition from the Empire to the First Order.
Yeah, that'd be
trade
cool.
negotiations for days.
No. From the Rebellion to the New Republic.
Yeah.
Now, you can't do that without maybe de-aging Mark Hamill and bringing Carrie Fisher back from the dead and paying Harrison Ford more money to return, but he's never going to do that.
No.
But, you can't do it without maybe making original characters part of that. But maybe you could do, a story that's set around that.
And the Outer Worlds.
Yeah, you can mention, Commander Skywalker's doing this, Princess Leia's doing this, but you never see them.
Yeah.
And it's about the other characters going about that.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, So, I feel like...
Even if it's just, Photoshop pictures, it's there's a picture of, Mark Hamill opens the First Jedi School, and he's like...
I'm sure Mark Hamill would be happy to do a de-aged hologram transmission.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the characters is Commander Skywalker's calling, and the the blue hologram pops up, and because it's a hologram and because it's de-aged, like it doesn't have to look great.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm sure Mark Hamill would be happy to do that cameo, you know. And then it's like one episode, and then you never have to.
That's right.
You know, and same with Leia. They can use old Leia audio footage and just play that somewhere. Don't do the weird CGI face from Rogue One.
No, or I mean, you could even, cast Billy Lord or have someone else just have a little hologram version.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to have a Star Wars TV show, delve into the lore and the universe, and that's why...
play with it.
That's why I'm a bit like this is just a Disney Channel action kids show with some more Rogue One grit.
It doesn't explore the universe at large.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is that the best thing about it is it explores the Mandalorian lore or culture,
which is something we've never really seen on screen.
It's in the Clone Wars animated series and a bit in Rebels, which again Dave Filoni, so he's definitely pulling that across, even though Jon Favreau wrote it. So yeah, they do explore it there, but it seems like this is the first time we're seeing it in live action.
Yeah,
and this is the first time we're seeing it after Return of the Jedi. All that stuff was before.
Going back to episode 3, the scene where he's fighting all the dudes because he storms the place to get the baby back.
Oh yeah.
And then they're fighting, and it looks hopeless. And then all these Mandalorian.
Oh yeah. At the end, So he goes back to save the baby because the Imperial scientist is working on him, or whatever. And we don't know if he's like cloning him or, trying to steal his force powers or whatever. But he takes the baby back, and he's killing all the stormtroopers with all these gadgets. He's got a flamethrower, which he uses all the time, and he's got the
whistling bird or whatever.
The grappling,
it's called.
what's that grappling hook thing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and then I like the armorer makes him the whistling bird missile things. It says, these are rare, so be careful. And then he only uses them when he's surrounded. That was cool. Yeah, and then he kills them all, and he goes out in the street, and Carl Weathers is there, and is like, you broke...
the guild is after
you. You broke the guild rules, give the baby back, maybe, we can work something out. And although he's all surrounded by all these bounty hunters, which again, John Wick thing where they all get the beep on their...
they all check their phones.
Their fob, which is, again, is so dumb. Like, it doesn't make any sense, but... Yeah, and then he decides to fight them, but he's going to lose, and then all the Mandalorians... Because... Another thing is the Mandalorians are all in hiding because the Empire
wants to kill them,
wipe them out.
Yeah,
and obviously they never take off their helmets or their armor, and so they're very conspicuous. So they can only leave their secret hideout one at a time, so they don't draw attention to themselves, and they can't let anyone know that they're all concentrated in one place. But they all decide to come out and help Mandy, and they're all flying around and shooting, and it's kind of cool, but.
Oh, it was nice to see the jetpacks.
Yeah, that's cool. Another
jetpacks and flamethrowers and ticking all the Boba boxes.
But yeah, it does tie into the whole prequel Clone Wars thing, where it's it'll be interesting to see, because I'm pretty sure in the Clone Wars they take their helmets off all the time. They're not. That doesn't make any sense that they would wear their helmets all the time. But I think what they're doing, if I'm not mistaken, is that after the Imperial Purge and the destruction of the homeworld, it's they're always they double down on
ready
that.
Ready to go.
They're always in their helmet. They can't. It's you can't let anyone see you, kind of thing. I'm sure that they might explore that later on, and I'm sure they'll explain. They'll show Pedro Pascal's face at some point and show his past and show he's maybe not 100% on board with the Mandalorian culture or something. I don't know. Yeah, that's the end of the episode, right?
Yeah. They fly off, him and his baby, whom he gives the bauble from the top of the lever.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, nice. He's embracing fatherhood.
Yeah.
And I guess it sums up a nice little arc.
At
least for our review in the studio, those 3 episodes, they tell, I guess, somewhat of a complete story up to this point. And then sort of where we can go from here is completely open, and we have no idea where the story will take us. Because there's no real indication on where we're going to be going from here, outside of they're just fleeing the planet.
Yeah, I mean, there is the whole, Baby Yoda has the Force thing, which I don't like, and they're definitely going to explore that, and hopefully they don't do a whole, he's Yoda's clone, but also hopefully they don't do a whole, the Yoda species is actually all born with the Force. And yeah, like I said, they're definitely it's a Disney thing and it's a Star Wars thing, so they're definitely going to be like, this guy's actually related to this guy. You know, they're definitely going to pull that shit. And eventually there'll be probably be a lightsaber.
I hope not.
Yeah, like, well, they've already got the Force in the first 2 episodes.
Do you think it'll be like
the baby will force pull it and be playing with it, and he'll turn it on, and Pedro Pascal will be like, "Hey, easy, that's really dangerous. Put it down." It'd be like a baby playing with a dangerous, like that sort of trope.
Or it could be maybe he'll have to. That one of his bounties will be a Sith.
Oh God!
Baby playing with a gun.
No, that doesn't make
the baby
any
playing
sense.
with a gun.
The Imperials be like, "We want you to hunt down a Jedi. His name is Luke." Because realistically, there'd be bounties on Jedi, wouldn't? Oh no, I suppose post Return.
Not
of
after
Jedi.
the Empire Falls.
Again, because in the original EU, the Empire put bounties on like the rebellion or the New Republic, but now in this universe they don't seem to have that. Again, doesn't explain where the First Order came from, but I guess in Rise of Skywalker we see that they've got, like, the Emperor was hiding all those Star Destroyers or something. So I don't know. It's all dumb. Everything they do, all the dumbest shit in the EU, the new Disney Star Wars movies, like, are so much dumber.
Yeah.
By far.
Yep.
Also, one thing, the Imperial Doctor guy, I don't like, he's wearing glasses, not Star Wars.
Yeah.
Don't have him wear glasses. They need to really figure out.
Why not like a visor? You know, like, why does it have to be like...
It seems like they never figured out I hate to say it, but there are rules in Star Wars that you shouldn't break. And a lot of those rules pertain to things being too close to
real life. Because Star Wars is a space fantasy set in a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So anything that looks or feels like it could be from our future doesn't fit. Like, for example, people don't wear underwear in Star Wars.
Yeah, George Lucas made that very clear.
That's right.
But it also ties into, and I think we talked about this maybe in the Last Jedi review, where it ties into the language. And the way people talk in the original movies and the EU and expanded, other stuff that came out after that, it's very specific. Like, there's no modern day real world jargon or terms.
You wouldn't see someone in Star Wars with an umbrella.
You might, but it would be a very specific kind of looking thing. But what I'm saying is you wouldn't hear anyone say, like, "goddamn son of a bitch." That doesn't...
Or sup,
they get called a scruffy nerf herder.
Exactly. There has to be that kind of level.
I'm going to censor that.
And then...
Nerf herder.
Scruffy nerf beep. You scruffy nerf beep. And this is one of the major problems with all the new Disney movies and TV shows, and it ties into that Marvel sense of humor, is that way, that cadence of talking, the way of talking, the jokes. It doesn't fit in with that. The way there's
no
slang.
There's no Yo Mama jokes in Star Wars.
That's what it's coming down to. Is The Last Jedi breaks all the rules all the time from start to finish.
Subverts them.
He subverts all the rules, and everyone in that movie talks like they're from
today,
a 2019 comedy, and it feels so wrong for Star Wars. And I know that for a lot of people listening, that might be like, "Oh, you're just a neckbeard who gets too caught up." But it would be like making a Lord of the Rings TV show where people are like, "Sup, dude?"
Gandalf's like, "I'll see you guys in the flippity flop."
Yeah, wubba lubba dub dub. Like,
Gandalf's like, "You don't know, thou'st pickle Rick."
Your IQ is not high enough to understand. You know what I mean? Like, you're, and this is all. It all comes back to you're making a movie or TV show or book or whatever, or video game, in an established universe.
That's right.
You have to respect the rules
that have been laid down,
And the original EU in the 90s did that. And that's why, for the most part, it was so good and so true to the spirit of the originals. Whereas the further we get from the originals and the further Disney goes with their stuff, it just gets more and more into the thing where it's not even a Star Wars thing anymore. So what's the point?
That's right.
Well,
it's like I always say, there was that comic I saw after Last Jedi came out, And the joke was, one guy says, "Oh yeah, I saw the new Star Wars film," and the other guy goes, "Oh, how do you know?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, it had lasers."
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Star Wars is. Star Wars is cool looking ships and lightsabers and the Force. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. That is Star Wars.
Yeah, we talked about like that's all people care about, and they don't see or hear anything outside of that, which is disappointing because at the end of
honestly,
the day,
a large portion of people are perfectly fine with that being Star Wars.
Yeah, I think, like I said, that's what people really care about when that's the least they should care
a lot
about
of people
almost.
feel like we do.
Yeah,
but I think they all lie about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think generally, considering how well these movies and shows are received, like, people generally don't care. All right, a few more things. I like the music in the show.
Yeah, the music was really good.
Ludwig Göransson, who did the Black Panther soundtrack, because so you get that really cool kind of weird...
I love how
it's like
Mandalorian has his own... Like, theme. When he enters a room, there's a specific thing.
And it's kind of like a man with no... Again, Boba Fett, it's kind of like a man with no name, Western kind of Ennio Morricone theme. Yeah. But it's also a weird kind of warbled
almost
sci-fi.
Yeah,
it's like a sci-fi version. It's like blue, blue, blue. You know, like it's like a weird... I like that. I do wish, again, going back to the arguments I always make, I do wish they started, you know, because... When they made Solo and they made Rogue One, their whole thing was, we're going to make these different by not having an opening crawl. And that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, and it makes no sense. All Star Wars properties, the video games, even some of the comic books, had an opening crawl and the Star Wars fanfare. Because at the end of the day, like we always say, Star Wars is that old adventure serial. So each property has to start with, here's where you're at in the story. Here's the music that introduces you. Here's the fanfare. So Rogue One and Solo should have started with the Star Wars music and the opening crawl. Solo even had that really awkward opening text, but not this, you know. So, like, it would be really cool. Imagine the first live-action Star Wars TV show. You turn it on. Yeah. And it says, you know, 5 years after the Battle of Endor and the destruction and the death of the Empire and yada yada, and we find a lone Mandalorian gunslinger and yada yada, and then we pan down and then the show starts. But again, this I guess ties into Disney's like not caring or not understanding Star Wars, but also then that would mean, I think, generally the music would have to be more traditional, and they tried to do that in Rogue One with the score that sounded kind of like John Williams-y, but also kind of felt off. So it's kind of like, if they did it, it probably wouldn't work. In this case, I think the weird music, sci-fi stuff doesn't really feel Star Wars-y, but also I think it works for the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It works.
Like, if this show was our ideal version of a Star Wars show, it would have a John Williams style score.
Yeah.
But it's clearly not that, and it's clearly never going to be that. And the Ludwig Göransson score is really cool.
Yeah.
Really different.
A shout out to the artwork at the end of each episode.
That was my next point, is I really like the end credits, you know, the kind of concept artwork.
Yeah,
that's really
nice.
Cool.
I watched every credit. Usually I just turn it off when it gets to the credits.
Exactly.
I watched every credit because I really enjoyed sitting there looking at some of the concept art.
Yeah, it looks really cool. And the music's like cool to listen to. Yeah. So same. I watched all the credits. What else?
That's about it, I reckon.
No, there's
for the Mandalorian. At least
there's a couple more notes I had. Oh yeah. One more thing. Like, you know, they announced they were going to do that Boba Fett movie, and then that got cancelled. And I was like, one of the reasons it got cancelled, I think, is because the Mandalorian show is a Boba Fett show, but without the baggage of having to connect to anything.
Allegedly, they're going to make a Mandalorian movie if the show gets popular enough.
Again, Disney has to figure out what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. It's either a movie or a TV show. Don't fuck around. If they're making this TV show and it's a Disney fucking channel show with a cheap adventure serial week-to-week kids show, and then they're going to make a movie of that, what's that going to be?
Yeah,
Pick one.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I feel like, because it's the Boba Fett show without Boba Fett, which again makes sense because they don't want to have that baggage. I think as much as I love Boba Fett, and as much as I would have loved to see a good Boba Fett movie or show, we know Disney can't do that, so that's off the table or automatically. But I think one of the things with Mandalorian and Boba Fett is like, the reason he's a cool character is because he's mysterious, and because he looks cool, and like there's that unknowable mystery, and that badassness,
the Deathstalkerness to it,
sort of more like a. And this ties into the video game thing that I was talking about. Like, the reason Master Chief is a cool character, or the reason Doom Guy is a cool character, is because you're playing a video game and it's more about you're inhabiting the character and you're moving from level to level and clearing out bad guys. Whereas when you get to a TV show or a story-driven movie, like, you have to have more there. And I think, but as much as I love Boba Fett and as much as I think he is truly a great character, even though people are like, oh, he's overrated, he's not, he just looks cool, he's actually really dumb.
Better.
Like, I think he works better as like a side character or a villain.
Yeah.
And I think Mandalorian, depending on where the show goes, I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure they'll develop the character and have more of his past and have him take off his helmet.
Not necessarily.
But at the end of the day, I'm not sure how well he works as a character.
Yeah.
Because
we're nearly halfway in. It's 8 episodes.
Yeah, so there's not a lot to go.
So they have to hurry up if they want to develop him a bit.
But yeah, I think a character like this is really cool and can work, but perhaps within a larger ensemble or as a secondary character or as a villain.
At the moment, he's only a vehicle to progress the plot. What little
That's
plot
the thing.
there is.
He's not really that good at fighting either. He's good at fighting. Like, he fought the stormtroopers and he fought the Trandoshans, but he got his ass kicked by the Rhino.
That's about it.
And he got his ass kicked by the Jawas. I also thought, I was like, when he's negotiating with the Jawas, and he just like blasts one of them in the face with the flamethrower, and he's like, huh, what do you think about that, huh? He's like such a little bitch. I'm just like, fuck, what, is this guy a badass stoic, or is he like maybe they did it for humor, maybe they did it on purpose, maybe they're going to show later on that he's not truly in the Mandalorian way. I don't know. What do they say? This is the way. I will show you the way.
Yeah, this is the way.
this is the way. But anyway, yeah, like, I feel like, again, this would either be a really good Samurai Jack show about a faceless guy, a warrior training a young
infant,
like orphan,
Yoda,
like a lone wolf and cub thing, or it should go the other way, and it should be like an hour-long drama, character-driven series with an ensemble cast of characters and exploring the world, and where the universe is at post Return the Jedi. Or they should have just done a Mandalorian show about the culture and an
ensemble Mandalorian show.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
And one where they actually take off their helmets and have
it'll be interesting because it's already been greenlit for another season.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if...
So is The Witcher, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's a no-brainer.
Netflix isn't messing around.
And Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
I'm wondering if they'll take up this feedback and they'll explore more backstory in the second season. Like, now that they know that people are interested, because it's been pretty successful so far.
Yeah. It depends.
Oh man, anything Star Wars is successful.
Yeah, exactly. It also depends on, like I said, what are they trying to do with this show? And my theory that I've been talking about these last couple hours is that it's just a safe Disney Channel action show that where you can
draw people into Disney Plus.
You can miss a couple episodes, doesn't matter.
Yeah,
But it has to be more. I think at this point in the streaming wars, at this point,
that's right.
At this point in the nature of how stories are told on television.
Look, when you're competing against Watchmen and The Witcher.
Yeah, exactly. And how, we've talked about, movies used to be where storytelling is, and TV show used to be where just action and,
it's flipped.
Now it's flipped. But Star Wars, the movies have just become dumb and nonsensical. And now the show, that could be the place where you get all the action and the world building. But now that's just kind of an action show.
Yeah.
I'll be interested to see what they do with the Obi-Wan show.
Nothing good.
Where it's like, what? How are they going to...
Yeah, don't.
Do I want to know?
No, we don't want to know. Nope.
No.
At the very... If they are going to do all these series on Disney Plus, they should just be like 6 episodes each, standalone, or they should be like an anthology.
Yeah.
Anthology would be good.
You know? Like, here's an Obi-Wan episode
Love, Death and Robots set in Star Wars.
Sort of. It's like, here's a live-action Obi-Wan episode with Ewan McGregor returning, and it's an hour long, maybe a bit longer.
It's just him cooking soup in the desert.
Yeah, and it's just about his life in the desert, him watching over Luke, him getting into a bit of trouble here and there, him meditating.
Being slightly racist as an old man in the desert. Just yelling at
damn sand people. Get off my lawn, you damn bantha herder. But yeah, and then they could do, you know, like, I don't know if you can sustain a full series. I don't know.
We'll see.
Not bad.
It's just, it's nice. Yeah, it's nice not to truly hate Star Wars, Star Wars property.
And that's the best. That's the best glowing.
That's the glowing endorsement. You know that's a glowing endorsement. If you've listened to the show before, it's not that bad. I don't hate it. Oh god,
that's the best you're gonna get.
Yeah. Nathan, did you want to talk about Fallen Order?
I think we can probably save it for another time.
Another time. Maybe once I've played it, we
can have a good chin wag about it.
Yeah, because I think a lot of things I'm seeing from that, you know, because I haven't played it, but just the gameplay and the some of the story trailers and that, I see some of the same problems I do in all Disney properties.
The story...
like, it's taking too much from the prequels, but with the fake, like, member of the original...
There are some story issues I do have with it.
Yeah.
We're already pretty much out of time. I could spend an hour talking about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it another time.
So maybe another time. But maybe we'll do a mini-sode on it once you've played it.
I think all Disney Star Wars properties now have that problem of using the look of the original movies through the Rogue One gritty filter, but not knowing where to go with it, not knowing how to stay true to the spirit of the originals, and then just being like, well, the prequel stuff is what people are familiar with. The Clone Wars show and the Rebels show are what kids like and what's canon, and we don't have much else in our canon.
What I will say...
And so they're kind of taking too much from that.
What I will say is most of the story doesn't draw anything from the previous films. It's most of the story beats center around a completely original idea.
No, but I just mean the ideas of the Inquisitors and Saw Gerrera and
Saw Gerrera
that's all Clone Wars
Starkiller
stuff.
Base.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
There's a couple of small issues like that. They could have just kept Saw out of it, and I would have been happy.
I think
the game overall is amazing. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and EA was very smart to let Respawn make a game.
Yeah, well...
behind Titanfall 2, Apex Legends. They're probably the best studio EA has, really.
Titanfall 2 is so good.
Yeah.
Still haven't played it. I've played the first level.
Oh, man, it's really short. You can smash it out.
But there's a lot of the sort of, like the physicality that Reflex is good at working with. The movement, it works really well. So, like, you know, you can do all the running on walls and a lot of the sort of jumping, climbing, all that kind of stuff is really good. The combat's really good. Sort of, you have to parry. I played it on the intended difficulty, which was quite difficult.
Okay.
I had to turn down the difficulty on a couple of bosses.
Yeah.
Because it's punishing.
Yeah.
In a good way. It's challenging. It challenges you.
It's also one of those games where you kind of level up as you go, and so that challenge kind of comes... It's kind of like Control in a way.
In a way, you get more powers, but the base combat sort of stays the same.
Okay.
It's all about parrying and evasion rather than like throwing... Because a lot of the bosses are immune to your force powers. If I'm fighting a Sith or another force wielder, they're just going to sort of knock back my force ability. So you have to... Their combat still maintained... It's still grounded in sort of lightsaber combat.
Yeah. I just want to ask one question before we finish. Can you choose the color of your lightsaber?
Yes.
Because I've seen a lot of gameplay playthroughs where in one scene it'll be blue, in another scene it'll be green, and I'm like, is the game doing that? Is the player doing that?
You can customize your lightsaber however you want it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I thought it was the game was changing colors willy-nilly when you had to do a different... you know when you change a weapon, change a function on your weapon, it changes color? I was like, I hope they don't do that.
No, you can customize your look, the ship's look, and your lightsaber, and the color of your droid.
Okay, that's cool.
They're all unlockables.
Yeah.
Aside from the actual colors of your crystals, which are like, I guess they come through story progression or whatever. Everything else, all the customization come through chests that you find in the game. There's nothing that you can miss outside of like one thing. Minor spoiler, you can miss getting a double-sided lightsaber blade. That comes through exploration rather than story.
Well, I guess that's like a secret Easter egg, maybe.
Kind of,
like
but it has a heavy
bonus.
impact on the gameplay.
Oh,
because you can change your fighting style, which has pros. I didn't like it that much. It's good when fighting groups, but I still found just a single blade better. But that's the only thing you can miss. Everything else is just cosmetic, and it doesn't really impact anything. There's no DLC or multiplayer or anything. It's just a pure focused adventure experience, and it is really good.
Okay, cool.
Once you play it, we'll give it a really good
it's
review.
kind of it's kind of funny that like, because you know everyone knows my feelings towards Star Wars and all the new stuff coming out. I'm just like not excited about it when I really should be, but that's what Disney did, is they took all the passion of it away from me. But with The Mandalorian being okay and me not hating it, and with everyone saying Fallen Order is actually pretty good, finally, because there hasn't been a good Star Wars game in a long time. Yeah, I'll be interested to play it and see like. Maybe the next couple of things won't be that bad.
I'll lend it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. Like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tuesday Review AU. Follow James on Instagram at Channel Drifter, where he talks about all the movies we don't get to talk about on the show. You can find our previous episodes on your favourite podcasting app. If you like video games, check out Callum and Jake's show, Sunrise Arcade. If you like automotive discussion, check out Matty J's show, Car Talk, TRQUE. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Tuesday Review on iTunes. Adios, cousins.